You want shut?
Oh,
I'm
it's
throwing
fine.
on myself today.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us today. I see that Facebook put stars on there again. I usually disconnect that, but I forgot to. So I always say I'm not asking for stars. So, hey, Debbie McCall, glad you're here with us. All right, we are going to start. We have one or two K's with us now, so we have four together now. So Jesus said, if there's two or three together, I'm there, two or more. So, but Father's always there because Father is in us right now. So I'm excited to be here today. This is, like I always say, this is one of actually probably my favorite day of the week. The second one is Friday night when we get together with all of our friends. So, but we had a good time yesterday with our family, and my granddaughter's going to Spain for a year, so we all had to say goodbye to her and had a good meal together. So it's always good to get together with family and friends. Hey Jim, glad you're here today. All right, well, we're going to continue our study in the book of John. It's been a marvelous study. I'm really just so excited to be able to teach this way instead of the old way like we used to. Those years were good. That was, the redemptive view was something I never heard before, so it was really good. But we have to realize that everything we're learning in life, there's always more. And Brother Garner used to say the problem with the previous people is they're stuck. And the truth is, he got stuck. I was stuck, But we don't want to get stuck in our awareness because there's always more. On the top of Brother Garner's back wall behind his stadium, hi Heather, it said the unsearchable riches of our Lord Jesus Christ. And what it meant is what Jesus was trying to teach. There was so much to say. And I want you to be aware of this as we go through this story, because on Facebook I titled this as the last spiritual teaching supper, because Jesus was teaching. He wasn't just having a dinner with us. He was always teaching. And, he had been away from birth until he was 30 years old. He was learning. From birth to 12, he was learning from the Essenes and maybe others, I don't know. But after he went into the temple and talked to the doctorates of the law and confounded them, then he left. And he went to Egypt and went to several other places, and he was learning. And then he came back to call his disciples, not just to follow him, but to teach them and actually to help them to be consecrated messengers. That's what he chose them for. He didn't need followers, right? There was no reason to have followers. So he was choosing people that were not just religious people, not just people in charge, but from every walk of life to be a consecrated messenger. So we want to make sure that we're not thinking that, only pastors can do this, or only people that have seminary degrees or whatever. Every person can be a consecrated messenger, and that's what we're here for. So we're going to start with John 13:2. It says, "And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him." And of course, that's the King James Version. It's really interesting. I don't think John ever heard the word devil ever in his life. And Jesus never talked about a devil back then because there was no devil. But again, this is just proof where the translators interject all this kind of stuff to produce fear and enemy we have to fight all the time. But the way that I see this is during the supper, which I would call it the spiritual awareness supper, the impulsive false awareness took root in Judas Iscariot, the son of Simeon, moving him toward betrayal, acting out of a separation thinking instead of union. He still didn't really understand that Jesus was teaching them their union with Father and their oneness with Father. He wanted something to take place. I mean, the disciples previously had discussed who was going to sit at Jesus' right hand and left hand and all that, because they thought he was there to set up an earthly kingdom. And so I believe the reason Judas did what he did is he was wanting to hasten that. Nobody knows for sure. There's no real record of why Judas betrayed Jesus. But I kind of like the idea that he thought that he was going to cause Jesus to take action. And so just some of these words particularly Jesus' name. It's Yehudah, and it means praise. And it talks about a praise that can become distorted when separated from spirit, turning to a transactional attitude, like if I do this, you'll do that. In other words, so like if I tell the Jews where you are and they come to get you, then you will start your kingdom. You will resist them, you'll take over. John Cahill always said his name means praise that betrays, because when he took his life, you know, he was thinking he could do something about what he did. That's how John saw it. And then when you look at Iscariot, his last name, it's Ish-Koreth, and it means man of Koreth, and it actually means a man of possession, symbolizing that he's tied to outer gain. So his name actually fit what he did because he stole from the treasury. And Jesus was very much aware of that, but he never said anything to him about it. He never judged him for that. And then his father, Simeon, means hearing, and that's the faculty of hearing that can be distorted when turned towards lower awareness. So we all have the ability to hear. We all have the ability to hear spirit. But when we turn towards lower awareness and we embrace lower awareness and we love the lower awareness, then we can't hear what spirit has to say to us. And that could be outer court teachings, whatever it is, the mistaken identity. When we base all of awareness on what, like Isaiah says, "Cease ye from man whose breath is in his nostrils." So when we have a favorite preacher or teacher or whatever, but their awareness is from the sense realm, then when you embrace that and you think that's all there is to it, you can't hear what Spirit's saying. And not necessarily what I'm saying to you, but you can't hear what Spirit's saying, because Spirit's speaking all the time. Spirit's always trying to draw people up higher. And then the word betray means to deliver up, to yield to a false power, if you would. In the Aramaic, it's shalem, and it means to hand over or to give up. And so metaphysically, it's yielding your sacred self to separation consciousness. And so a devil here, of course, is not a being, we know that, but it's the energy of accusations against people. It's the energy of division. And so fear, doubt, control, all that is part of that. And that's that energy function in people that creates division. People wonder why Charlie Kirk was killed. Well, it's because there was something that gentleman was feeding on, and his own father said it produced hate in him. And so that can happen. And even in the church, a lot of the stuff that is taught all the time can produce a bad energy that can cause people to hate other people that aren't Christians and speak bad of them. Not maybe verbally hate, but in their actions. So Judas represents the part of mankind that still evaluates spirit through material calculations. If I do this, this will happen. And I really believe that's what he was doing. If I do this, then Jesus will go ahead and do what I think he's going to do. And so that's that praise that has become a bargaining thing. So when this old awareness is stirred up, it literally betrays the logos inside of you, and you're not able to handle the sacredness of who you are, and it brings all kinds of problems into a person's life. So this shows that even in the midst of this inner banquet, if you would, this supper of union, this last time really of Jesus getting to teach his disciples and prepare them for their ministry, there's an opposing voice that may rise up, urging us to trade truth for temporal gain. And the betrayal is not just about money, it's about yielding our inner awareness to lower thoughts. And again, a person can have a call on their life. You know, I had a call on my life given to me in 1988, and I'm constantly reminded of it. But I had a time when a minister told me, if you will stop translating scripture, if you'll stop telling people there is no devil and all that kind of stuff, you can preach all over the United States. Well, very easily, I could have done that for personal gain, right? So that's how that happens, and it happens in a lot of people's lives. They're afraid they're going to lose their ministries, or they find, if I can just kind of soften what I teach and be more careful what I teach, I can go out and I can minister to the crowds. And I'm not speaking against people that do that, but that's kind of what happens. So religion turned this verse into proof of a literal devil, but the language points to this inner dynamic here. It's diabolos, is the thought of division. That's a traducer, right? When you think that you're not one with God, you're not one with me. Your belief systems are different than me, so we're divided. And I don't love you because your belief systems are different. I saw a post the other day. It said it would be a very boring world if we all believed the same thing. Now, I believe if we all believed the truth about Father, it'd be a wonderful world. But in the political agenda and everything else, that they said that. And so we are individuals, and we have a right to have different beliefs. And we should respect. I stand up today and say that we should respect people's beliefs. Even if they're completely contrary to what I believe, I respect your right to believe what you want. And when we do that, then hate does not come into play. And that's what the whole world needs today. So this betrayal is not just about money, it's about acting, the act of yielding our inner awareness to lower thoughts. And so notice where it enters the heart awareness. That's where it enters. It comes into the very seat of your knowing, and it plants suggestions, it plants accusations, it plants doubt into the center of our being. And Judas becomes that symbol of praise distorted by self-interest, willing to trade union for temporal validation. Sometimes when we've gone to church, we came for self-interest, did we not? We had some kind of problem in our life, and whatever it was, even if I had no peace or whatever, reason we came is because we needed something for ourselves. But then there comes a time, like Brother Garner told me, Roy, it's time for you to not study for yourself. It's time now for you to study and feed for other people. And that's what Jesus was trying to get his disciples to, that point where it wasn't about them, but it was about the society. And I'm going to show you later on where literally he wanted to reduplicate who he was in their lives. So Simon, whose name means hearing, his dad, adds another layer to that. Judas is Simon's son, meaning this betrayal arises when hearing or perception becomes tuned to the outer voices again, and rather than spirit. And thus this verse is not about a cosmic evil. It's not about some kind of devil out there trying to hand us over to whatever, but it's about us handing over our sacred awareness to the world's systems when we let lower thoughts dwell in our heart system, let fear or whatever it is. So, of course, you know this, those that are listening to us, there is no devil at all. Division is only a suggestion within our awareness. Judas lives wherever a claim turns to transaction. And a lot of people have a transactional relationship with Father, and they're taught that from religion. If I pay my tithe, you'll bless me. If I will serve in the church, you'll bless me. There's all kinds of stuff. If I give this up, you'll bless me. It's all transactional. But we've got to not fear those stirrings that come in, but we got to see them for what they are. They're false thoughts. It's not some enemy tormenting you. And so we've been taught so much in Christianity that the devil's seeking to devour us. The devil's doing this, the devil's doing that, to the point that we believe it. And then when we struggle with a false thought, we think it's a devil. And then what do? I rebuke you, I bind you, and all that kind of stuff. And when you're rebuking something, you're giving it a power. That's why people so much believe in a devil. They so much believe in a Satan, because all their lives they've given that a power, and it's very hard to let go of.
I heard Satan get behind me all my life.
Yeah, get thee behind me. That's right. So John 13:3-5 now. Jesus, knowing that Father had given all things into his hand, and that he had come from God and went to God, this is King James again, he rose from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet. In Oklahoma, we say wash, but wash. And to wipe them with a towel wherewith he was girded. So my explanation of that is Jesus, fully aware that Father had entrusted him and all things into his being, knowing his origin was Father, and his life was of Father, and continued in Father, rose from the banquet where he was teaching, and he set aside his outer garment of form, if you would, and clothed himself in servanthood. Remember the scripture said Jesus considered not robbery to be equal with God, but he became a servant to all people. And then it says, he poured the cleansing water of the Logos, if you would, into a basin, and he began to wash the disciples' feet. So what does feet represent? Anybody, you know? Our walk, our way, our journey of awareness, our manner of living. And so he wiped them with a towel that had been wrapped around himself. So let me give you some Greek meanings, and then we'll explain this a little more. Where it says, given all things into his hand, it means entrusted all things into his authority. So Jesus had the authority to teach the Logos, if you would. He had authority to teach the spiritual creative activity and the movement and the action of spirit to reveal the law of abundant life. He had that authority because he lived the abundant life. He understood the abundant life. Then where it says come from God or go to God, it means to emerge from source and continue into the source. Emerge from Father, but also continue in relationship with Father. That's why I said he never lost contact with God. The word Christ comes from the root word cryo, which means contact. So if we don't have contact with the divine mind, then we can't function out of who we are. So this points to this eternal origin or destination in the Father. Our life is to live and move and have our being out of Father, so Spirit can live and move and have its being in us, right? And that's, Jesus pictured that perfectly. Then the word garments is Himatln. It means robe, or more accurately, it means covering of awareness. Allegorically, this refers to this inner and outer awareness. And then the word towel, or gird himself, I won't pronounce the word, it's too long, but it means linen cloth, it means built of service, and in Aramaic it means towel again. Allegorically, it means humility, and it means a service consciousness, a person that's here to serve. I remember John Cahill saying this years ago, I'm John Cahill, how may I serve you? And I love that, and I did that for many times, and I still do sometimes. On Facebook, people often thank me for a post or whatever, and I say, I'm here to serve. I live to serve. Donna can tell you, I enjoy people calling me or asking me to call them. I enjoy helping people. It's my character that's within inside of me, but it is all of us. Anybody should enjoy serving people. If you don't, you need to try it for a while because it's fun. And then water we know is the logos of the word. It's Hydor. It means life-giving. It means cleansing flow. In Aramaic, it's Maya, and it means waters again of the logos of truth. And then wash means to cleanse. It's Nipto, refresh, free from defilement. In Aramaic, it means to wash or rinse. And allegorically, it means renewal of awareness. So we know that personally, Roy Richmond never needed to be cleansed. My awareness needed to be cleansed. We thought getting saved was going to cleanse us of all of our filthy works, right? We were taught that. But did it do it? Honestly, no. I was in church all my life, and I never walked the aisle. I was born in church, so I never went down. I never asked the Lord into my life, but I knew I was saved, if you would. But I still struggled with stuff. I still ate too much ice cream. And I watched people come to our church that came to our gospel hootenannies. They wanted to join up. They said the sinner's prayer. They came to Sunday school. They sang the song. They loved God, but they still struggled. There was still, quote, sin going on, like the church called sin. A lot of them ended up worse off than they were when they came, because they were never taught it's your awareness that needs cleansing. We've got to change what's going on up here. And the very first thing we've got to change is your mistaken identity that you think you're just a sinner saved by grace, that you think that you're no good, that you think that your actions that you've done, bad actions have done, has defiled you. It defiled your awareness, not you. That's what people need to hear. If I were in a church today and there were altar calls, I would not be having them pray any kind of prayer. I would give them a sermon and teach them who they are. And I guarantee you, they'd walk out of there feeling much better with that than just saying God forgives you of your sins, because you're still a sinner when you walk away, right? You still are. And then the word feet, literally feet, metaphysical, again, is our walk. It's our daily walk, our practical expression. So I'm getting you to this point now where we see when he was washing their feet, he was actually washing their awareness. He was washing their walk. He was cleansing their walk of all their religious belief systems and everything. So Jesus, in full awareness of origin, if you would, our destiny, he models this nature, the Logos, in action, in movement, and what it's like to live in total union with Father. Know that wherever you go, whatever you're doing, you're one with Father and all mankind, and expresses itself as, again, a service that's born out of love. That's another thing the world needs is love. Everybody knows that. I've heard people quote it over and over in all kinds of systems, but they're still not loving. They're still in this system of getting more. I always talk about, I want my land and I want all the land that touches my land.
You have to give it before you can give it.
You what?
You have to give it before you can
Give it out, that's right. So the act of setting aside garments represents laying down our old identity, our old appearance. Girding with a towel shows the sacred self clothed in humility. You know, the disciples really respected Jesus. They exalted Jesus. I don't know that they thought he was God, but I knew they knew that he was a great teacher, and they respected him, and they put him on a pedestal, their self in a way. So I believe that Jesus was taking that clothing off. In other words, I'm going to show you who I really am. I'm a servant. And that's, to me, that's really cool. Because I've got degrees, and I tell people all the time, I've got 3 master's, 2 doctorate degrees, but I said that has nothing to do with who I am. I just took those to learn about where the church came up with all this stuff. But that's not who I am. And I hope you know that. I hope you know me as a servant. I love serving people, and I hope you do too. So washing feet pictures the cleansing of daily expression, the cleansing of daily awareness. It purifies us from that dust of law-based thinking that we picked up on our life. And if we're not careful, if we don't stay in the Logos and stay in listening to the voice of Spirit, then that dust can get right back on us, because the world is filled with a lot of carnal dust, if you would. And that's why Jesus told the disciples, when you go house to house and you try to share the Logos with them, if they reject you, don't get mad, don't beat them up, just walk away and wipe the dust off your feet. And that means don't receive the poison. Because it's only poison if you receive it. You ever thought about that? To you, it's only poison if you receive it. So this basin of water is this inner reservoir of the Logos. It's the inner reservoir of truth. It's poured out for the refreshing of people's awareness. And that's what I feel about me. I have, and you have, the inner Logos inside of us, and we have something to give out. Somebody told me the other day, they said, you sound like, I feel like I'm listening to a 25-book dictionary on spiritual things. And I said, well, thank you, because that's what I want to happen. I want to be able to answer your questions. I'm in the place today that I can answer them. I'm not telling you I know everything there is right this minute, but I'm telling you when the withdrawal comes, I know that I can answer it, because I know Spirit speaks. So this basin of water is that reservoir that's within inside of all of us. You don't have to necessarily be able to quote everything to know that you have a reservoir of life within inside of you, because you have the divine mind. Scripture says we have contact with the Holy One, which is the divine mind, and we know all things. And the sooner you can get to where you say, I do know it all, but I don't have to be able to say it all to prove it right now, but I know it enough that Father's going to lead me to people who are asking the questions that I can answer right now. And then when there's a need for it, you can either say, I can't give you that answer right now, but I will talk to my teacher and I'll find out. You know, there's always a way, but we can answer people's questions. And I grew up in a place where ministers could not answer my questions. Like Dick and Elaine Hunt. They went to their pastor in Arizona several years ago and began to ask. They began to be seekers. And they asked, and the preacher said, oh, those things aren't known to be meant to be known right now. We'll know those in heaven. What he was saying is, I don't know the answer. I can't help you. And that's sad. So this scene here reveals the paradox of the Logos life. It's the one who knows he has all things in his hands, lays aside the garment to become a servant to all people. So proper authority is expressed not in dominion, but in love's service. And in our world, we kind of look for, not me personally, but in our world, mankind always looks for somebody that has more understanding, has more degrees, has a greater position, right, in life, and they want to go to them for help. And sometimes we want to go to the very best doctor there is, where there could be some doctors that aren't rated in the medical industry that are the best, but they have greater understanding. So that's why I always say we need to let Spirit be our guide. Spirit can say, go, this is the way to go, and we can do that. So Logos washes them so they may walk in alignment. That's what Jesus was doing. He was washing their walk so they would walk in alignment with the Logos and not be affected by inherited traditions, if you would. So the garment Jesus laid aside pictures every form of humanity's external identity, our nationality, our race, our religion, our role, our title. Wouldn't that be great if we could all just let all that go? I want to get to the place where I don't look at a person and think, oh, they're from India, or oh, they're from this place, or they have this religion, or they do whatever. Because when you do that, you're putting up a wall. So what we want is we want to be able to see with our single eye. Hey, Judy Miller, I love you guys. With our single eye, and see the way Father sees people. Not to see the way Jesus sees, that's okay, but I want to see the way Spirit sees, because Spirit's inside of me. And seeing all people holy would change so much today. But when hate and bitterness and fear and doubt and greed and everything enters in, people can't see. They're blinded by the lie. So one title, a title is just a title. It's not who you are, right? I've got all kinds of titles. First of all, I'm a husband, and I love my wife very much. I'm a father. I'm a friend. I'm a teacher. I'm a professor. I am a consecrated messenger. I have no problem saying that. I've had other titles in my life and my jobs, but that's not who I am. And we really need to know who we are. Sometimes it's hard for people just to say, who am I? But you need to think about that, because who I am is I'm a son of God. I am the very visibleness of the Logos of Father, the creative spiritual activity and movement that reveals the spiritual law of abundant life. That's who I am. I exist. And actually the word am is exists. So who do you exist as? That's more important, I guess I would say. So again, it's not your career, it's not your political position, and life in general. It's who we really are, and that's what Jesus came to teach people, is who they really are. And if they would listen, they could learn a lot from him. So the Logos washes these away. And what they do, the Logos, when we feed on the Logos of the Word, then it restores us to clarity, and we can say, oh, now I understand. Now I see clearly. Now I know I'm here on this earth to be a blessing to all people. I am a cherubim. A cherubim, when you study the word cherubim out, a cherubim means people of blessing. So if one is not actively cleansing themselves with the Logos, then we pick things up from the world that poison us, the dust of the world, and it causes bad actions. What you feed, as Allison said, where your awareness goes, I'm probably saying it wrong, but where your awareness goes is who you see yourself to be. That's why that young man, he was in a family that was a very conservative family, all of them were, but somehow or another he began to feed on bad information, and the more you feed, then it produces hate, or whatever you're feeding on. Whatever you're feeding on, it reduplicates that self in you. So this action also prefigures Jesus' greater unveiling. Jesus, as he lays aside his garment, he will lay aside every form of life to reveal this inner Logos. So I have, in my conversations with Father, I'm always saying, Father, help me let go of everything in my life that's not revealing the Logos. Mm-hmm. I want people, when they see me, to be attracted to me. Not just because I'm really good looking and have a nice hairstyle. You're supposed to laugh. Donna and Norma are going, Lord Roy. But I don't want them to recognize just the outward. I want them to think, do I know you? Have we met someday? I love when people say that, because what we're doing is our spirit is connecting with each other. It's drawing us to each other. And if we had a society like that, oh, the world would be wonderful.
Yes.
Everybody would be, when we get up in the morning, who can I bless tomorrow? What can I do to make this world a greater society? Charlie Kirk's wife I was listening to him talk yesterday, her talk, and she said something he did that always amazed me. She said he was the greatest husband, the greatest father you will ever meet, but he always came every morning, tell me what I can do to be a better dad today, tell me what I can do to be a better husband. And I thought, that is so cool. And that's what I say, Father, show me what I can do to be an example of the Logos today. Show me, I'm real excited with my wife. I grew up in sales reading How to Win Friends, Influence People. To me, that was like a Bible to me. And everybody needs to read it. It's one of the greatest books ever written. And I've asked my family, a lot of them won't read it. And I've asked Donna for quite a while to read it, not, about it. But she picked it up and started reading it. And so over the last few weeks, I've been watching my wife and listening to her, and she's practicing those principles, and I'm so proud of her. And it feels good, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It does. It feels good. So these principles here, if we would listen to what Spirit says to us and begin to practice those principles, it's joy unspeakable and it's full of glory. It puts a smile on your face. It makes you feel happy. But also the people you're blessing, you're exalting them and you're lifting them up. Okay, John 13, 6 through 11. Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Peter said unto him, Lord, do you wash my feet? And Jesus answered and said unto him, what I do you know not now, but you shall know hereafter. Peter said unto him, you shalt not wash my feet. In other words, I'm not going to let you do that. You're too holy. That's kind of what he was saying. I'm not going to have you wash my feet. And Jesus said to him, if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Then Simon Peter said unto him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. And this is so important here. Jesus said to him, he who is washed needeth not save to wash his feet, but is clean all over. And you are clean, but not all. Isn't that interesting?
What does that mean?
I'm going to tell you. Donald, I want to know right now. For he knew who should betray him. Therefore he said, you are not all clean.
He didn't mean not all the body.
That's right. He's talking about the awareness. That's right. Y'all jumped ahead of me. You ruined my whole sermon.
I'm sorry.
No. So he came to Simon Peter, who asked, do you, my teacher, wash my feet? And Jesus said, you do not really perceive what I'm doing, but you will later. You will understand. But Peter still resisted, and he said, you will never wash my feet. And Jesus replied, if I do not wash them, you cannot share in my awareness. So what he's saying is, I'm going to wash, I'm going to cleanse your way of walking, your way of living. And I promised you, as he was doing that, he was talking to them. I guarantee you he was talking to them and helping them. And then Peter said, yeah, not on my feet, but my hands and my head. But Jesus said, one who has already been bathed is entirely clean. In other words, you were born holy. You are perfect. You people out there listening to me, if you think you need to get saved to be cleansed, you are listening to the great lie. You are already holy. You are already perfect. Jesus said all people are holy, but few choose to live holy. And the reason why is because they're taught that they're just sinners. Their belief system's been rotten, if you would. So he said, and you are clean, though not all of you, for one will betray this awareness. Now, how did he know that? Well, it doesn't take too much when you're running around with a crowd of people to be aware of their awareness, does it? It's not like it's some kind of supernatural thing that he knew this. He knew that Judas was stealing money. He was very much aware of that. He was attuned. Our children, we had 3 children, and we were around them all those years, we knew which one was honoring and which one wasn't, right? Because we spent time with them. So that's how he knew this. So this encounter with Peter reveals the struggle with people when the movement and action of Logos to cleanse their walk of awareness. Peter, whose name means stability, represents this part of mankind, this part of mankind that, I lost my thoughts here. This part of mankind that still thinks that they're not as good as somebody else. They're, like, you mean the Pope wants me to come up and the Pope wants to pray for me and the Pope wants to do this or that? And no, I don't want to do that because I don't think I'm holy. I'm not worthy. And like I told my congregation years ago, I said, if God was back there in my office and I told you God wanted to see you right now, would you run back there real quick? Nobody raised their hands because they would think, oh, I need to go pray first. And I told him that. I said, that would be kind of silly. He's in there. But they were afraid. They would have been afraid. And after a month of teaching who Father was and who they were, I asked the question that last Sunday, and they all raised their hands. So it's not about physical dirt. It's about these thoughts and this fear and this competition and the guilt and the performance that clings to us as dust, if you would. That's what he was washing them from. And it wasn't so much the water, it was the Logos. He was teaching them more of the Logos of the Word because he knew this was probably was going to be his last time to get to teaching. Now think about this. He taught them. We were never taught this as much, but he taught those guys for 3.5 years. That's a college degree, if you would. Mm-hmm. And they were listening to the greatest teacher there ever was in their world. So these guys learned more than we think they did. I think he taught them a lot. They still had some struggles, and that's why at this last spiritual dinner with them, I think he was really clarifying some things for them. Mm-hmm. So the story is not about Jesus scrubbing their little feet. It's a divine allegory. Jesus, the consecrated messenger, shows us that union with Father is not proven by lofty words. It's not proven by the humility of service, if you would. He who knew all things, and it was all given to him, in a sense, he laid that down. He laid that awareness down because he took this towel that was on him and he kneels down, he washes the dust off, and the lowest task in their culture, he wiped that off of them because that was the lowest task. For somebody to clean people's feet, that's what servants did, right? They would have houses, and when the guests came, they would call servants, which were considered lowly people, to wash the feet. So Jesus pictured that. And Peter recalls, no, you'll never wash my feet. And what this is the cry of people's old or current awarenesses. People do not like to be vulnerable, if you would. We used to do foot washing services in our church that we grew up in. And I never did it a lot at Tree of Life, but one conference time, Father spoke to me, Spirit spoke to me that morning to wash the pastor's feet. And that was Brother Garner and several other pastors. And I told him, I said, I want you guys to come up. I want to wash your feet. And it was very humbling for a lot of them. And a lot of them were very reluctant. I had to say 2 or 3 times, please come down. Because that would make you vulnerable, wouldn't it? For me to take your socks off and take your shoes off and wash your feet. And that's a very intimate thing also.
Do you remember Brother Garner?
Brother Garner, he broke. Yeah, he cried, really, he cried. And I cried because it's an awesome thing. Yeah, it's very emotional. It's very spiritual. And so he was saying, you're already clean, but I'm washing your walk. I'm helping you clean your. So again, it's not about the washing, it's about what he was teaching them. He was teaching them and he was giving them a physical.
It represents the old awareness.
Been cleansed away. Yeah, all the stuff that they still was hanging on to, I believe he was teaching them. I don't think he was just sitting there quietly washing his feet, but I was thinking he was giving them a physical picture of a spiritual truth. And as he was doing that, he was teaching because there were some things they still needed to let go of. Like, I'm not here to be your king. The Roman Empire is not our enemy. The Pharisees and Sadducees, they're not our enemy. It's just the beliefs that you guys have grabbed hold of. I believe he was teaching them. So the only cleansing needed then is our daily path and our walk. And that's why I say we still need to come to a place where truth has been taught. If you call it church, if you call it home teaching, if you call it what Allison does and her friends do, the Reiki and the sound bath, whatever it is, we need our awareness cleansed. And we need to know who we are.
When Mary washed Jesus' feet and then dried it with her hair.
That was a subservient.
She was just offering that to herself. She was doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. She was honoring him. She was showing how she felt about him, and she lifted him up and exalted him. And of course, as time goes on, he let him know that I am not to be worshipped. She wasn't worshiping him. She was crying. I mean, he told her, I'm here for you. And she, some way or another, of course, I believe she was a very spiritual woman, but I also believe that she was treated bad. Because in those days, women were treated bad. All the women out dancing around trees, they weren't horrible people. They were worshiping spirit. They, worshiping what they knew to be God. And yet the Catholic Church burned them at the stake. So she was honoring him. So verse 11 adds the remainder of this betrayal. Not all are clean, because some faculties still yield to separation. Right? We're holy. We know we're holy now. But still, sometimes there's little thoughts come that I'm not perfectly one with God or whatever. So Judas represents this inward part of awareness that turns, praise into transaction.
Because everybody, all of us think we're forgiven, but we always think of that one thing that says that was so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe God forgave me all the little things, but what about the big one that I did?
Right. But the truth is, there was never any need for forgiveness from Father. Father's not a God up there that's watching every little thing you do.
Yeah.
Father doesn't even recognize. Right.
1960 when you were with the hippies.
Yeah. So.
That's what you're.
Yet even this.
Those thoughts.
Okay, so this is embraced in the supper. In the supper, it's showing that spirit never excludes, even when betrayal dwells in the very midst. I don't think Jesus pointed to Judas and said anything bad about him at all. But we'll see later where he said, go and do what you're going to do, because he knew what he was going to do. But he didn't condemn him. He didn't tell him that you have a bad person here. So this story is not about a devil forcing Judas to do anything. It's not about sin making us unworthy at all. It is about the contrast between union awareness and betrayal awareness. And who do you betray? Not God, not Father, not Spirit. You betray yourself. And so he really wasn't betraying Jesus. He was betraying himself. It's about the humility of Spirit cleansing us and our resistance to receiving it. So again, you are always clean. You already are. You've always been clean, who you are. You're always holy. Spirit sees you as holy. In fact, there's 2 places in the Bible where it says God sees us in the end from the beginning. So if Spirit does see us, Spirit sees us exactly the way we are Spirit. We are holy. It's us that needs to change the way we see ourselves and the way we see other people. It's about humility. It's about our resistance to receiving. And really, I'm not worthy to do this. I can't do this. All the stuff that we say, we have to let that go because you are clean. You need not strive for worthiness.
We have to accept, we have to accept the truth that we are holy and worthy.
Right. You have to remember who you are. So let your messengers of the Logos and what you learn in yourself wash you from all that stuff. Do not resist the service, for we want to receive. We want to receive this revealing of union, and the Spirit is the towel that's wrapped around your awareness. That's what Jesus was doing. He was wrapping Spirit around their awareness. He was cleansing. So it cleanses our walk. You can walk refreshed. You can know you're entirely clean. Even when betrayal thoughts try to rise within, Father's love holds us at this banquet table, if you would. So love holds that. So let's go to John 13, 12 through 15. So after he washed their feet and taken his garment and was set down again, he said unto them, Know you what I have done to you? In other words, do you know? You call me Master and Lord. Now, this is really interesting. You call me Master and Lord, and you say, well, okay, this is what I was calling you about last night. And you say, well, hold on just a second. Okay, because I am. If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Now, does that kind of strike something interesting that he's saying, I'm your Lord and Master? He never pointed to himself, did he?
Nope.
He always pointed to Father. So let's look at the meaning of this. And I'm going to explain you some of the words. And this is how I corrected the verse. So after he washed their feet and had taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them, Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and supreme in authority. That's what that means, of the Logos. And he was. You say, well, for I am. So that's why I can say I am. I have great authority to teach the Logos, right? And I am a teacher. So that's what he said. If I then have washed your feet as a supreme teacher and authority, you also, see, they switched everything around. You also, as one who is supreme in authority, as a teacher, ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Doesn't that make sense? Yep. 3.5 years of teaching, those guys learned a lot because they were learning from the greatest master, comforter, teacher there was in their area. So he's saying, I've equipped you to do this so you can go just as I am as a supreme master, teacher, and teach truth. And you should also cleanse people's awareness. That's your job. Not to go get people saved, not to make them do works, but help change their awareness. I love this. So after cleansing their walk of awareness, Jesus put on again the outer garment, back on himself. He returned to his seat at the banquet and said, Do you perceive what I've done for you? You call me teacher, one sent in this authority. So he said, if I am in that authority, then you are in that authority. You must cleanse people's awareness. For I have set before you this example of the pattern of the Logos and how the Logos can cause you to serve other people's lives. So in the Greek, teacher, when it talks about master, it actually means teacher. And it means instructor or one who unfolds truth. Master is an explainer of truth. And that's why I've told people before when Jesus said that Father was going to send many more comforter messengers. The word comforter means a master. It also means a leader and a guider of truth. So he said Father's going to send more teachers who have great understanding that's going to lead you and guide you in the things that I tried to teach. And then Lord, our supreme authority, again, is master and authority. It means one possessing authority. It's not domination, but Logos authority born out of constant union with the source. So he's just saying that's who I am. So the word example here means pattern or model or representation. In the Aramaic, it's likeness, example, and it points to a way of living, not a ritual. Jesus did not come to start a religion. Jesus did not come to start rituals like the communion supper or baptism or all the things that the church came up with. He came strictly to show us the way we should be living, to correct that. So wash one another's feet, cleansing the walk of awareness. Allegorically, we share the Logos life by helping one another remove that residue of the law, residue of fear, residue of false identity. No person should walk based on man's law. No person should walk in fear or hate or doubt or shame or false identity. So this passage reveals this actual pattern of the Logos authority. It's not dominion, it's not control, it's not hierarchy, if you would. It's authority expressed as service. Kay wrote, Jesus was more Lord and kings of himself than we are Lord and kings of ourselves. In other words, he had great understanding. And I've talked about that before. He was King of Kings, Lord of Lords. That means he knew more than the other kings because all people were kings. Lord of Lords means he had greater awareness than them. So we want to get to that point where we can literally be King of Kings in our world. We want to get to that point where we can go and help people. It's not some kind of exalting title or whatever. In other words, you want to get to where we have enough awareness, enough understanding that we can help people in their problems and go forth and make disciples of all people. Not disciples of me, but disciples of the Logos. So this means Jesus says, if I, as one in Logos authority, wash your feet, then you also can do the same thing. You also can stand in authority. And that's when he told them to go house to house. In other words, to go to people. So this means that to us, and it's important for us to understand this is the pattern for the community of awakened awareness. We're not called to compete for titles. We're not called to compete for positions in life. We're called to cleanse one another. We're called to remove the dust of error thinking so we may walk freely and they may walk freely. And so this example Jesus sets is not a ritual foot washing. If people do that, that's okay, but it needs to be a picture. We need to be able to explain what we're doing. And I'm washing you guys' feet, if you would, every time you come here. Every time you listen to me or you listen to Kay, we are washing your feet. We're washing your walk. We're washing your perception. We're washing your way of life so you walk out of the Logos. So this moment is a divine reversal of the world's idea of authority. The systems in the world teach that authority means ruling, commanding, and elevating one. Can you imagine if the political and the medical system and the financial system learned this and walk out of this and they humbled themselves and they became servants? It wasn't about them. It wasn't about making all the money you can make. It's about helping people. And that's when we fully are aware of the Logos authority that's inside of us. It stops, it stoops, if you would. It stops to help people with awareness. You're walking around in life with the ear tuned to people's voices and you hear somebody say something that you know you can help. And then you might say, hey man, I really like your shoes. Or that's a nice looking blouse. Or I like your hairdo. And if it's a divine appointment, something's going to happen that's going to cause you to be able to open up. I know it because I do it all the time. And it's always a divine appointment. But guess what? You're the one that needs to start it. You're the one that needs to be willing because you're the one that has the answer to help them. So Jesus was fully aware of this. And he does not mean, do you realize I just washed the dirt off your toes? But do you perceive this pattern that I've set before you? That's what he was saying to them. This pattern is real. It's real authority. It's revealed in service. You want to do what you're called to do? Be a servant. That's what he's telling the disciples. You don't need me to come be a king and want to be set on the right hand, want to be set on the left hand. I'm here to make you servants, to equip you to do that. So we too are teachers. We are messengers of the Logos. When we function out of union with Spirit, we are supreme in authority. You don't have to have a degree in college to be that. You don't have to have a big church or whatever. You can sit in your home all your life and feed on the Logos, and you are supreme authority. And I promise you, you know more than 99% of the preachers in the entire world. And you have a way of helping people. But you don't want to set up a kingdom yourself. You don't want to set up where people come down and bow down to you and stand in line to hear a word from you and stand in line to be blessed from you. You want to hear somebody that can teach you the Logos. Yet this authority, again, is never for exaltation then. It is for the cleansing of others. So notice, let me see how much I got to go. I'm going to finish this. It won't take too long. If you got to go, you can come back and watch it later on. But Jesus put his garment back on then, and he sat down again. And this symbolizes the return to outer life after the act of service. We live in both realms, if you would, but we don't let both realms affect us. We only let one. But with a towel, if you would, clothed in the garments of daily expression, he always was with a towel of the Logos. In other words, no matter where he was constantly a vessel of the Logos, the creative spiritual activity in the church. The word ek for ecclesia is movement and action, spiritual movement and action. We are where spiritual movement and action pours out into the world. So the example he gives is not a command to repeat a ritual, but a living pattern, if you would. So when we embrace this, community begins to be transformed around us. Instead of competing, we serve. Instead of demanding loyalty, we pour out the Logos water. I'm talking to politicians here. I'm talking to managers of businesses. I'm talking to whoever it is. Instead of judging one another's walk, we cleanse it. This is what it means to be supreme in authority. We walk in authority because we are in Father. We are aware of the Logos. We walk with love. But again, authority is not to dominate. We don't try to dominate people's lives. Amen?
Amen.
So this is a pattern of the kingdom. It's a banquet. It's a banquet where the teacher serves. And every path is made clean in this flow of this creative spiritual activity. So John 13, 16 through 21. Surely, surely, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord, nor he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, happy are you if you do them. I speak not of you all. I know who I have chosen, but the scripture repeats itself in many ages. As King David said, one of his friends who ate bread with him raised up against him. In like manner, it will soon happen to me. Now see, well, let me finish this and I'll tell you. Now I tell you before it comes, that when it is come to pass, you may believe that I am he. Surely, surely, I say unto you, he that receiveth whomsoever I send receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. When Jesus had thus said this, he was troubled in his heart awareness, and he testified and said, Surely, surely, I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. Now this was placed in here, quoting Isaiah, if you will, quoting David, that one of his friends that he loved and ate bread with betrayed him. And everywhere I went looking at that, all the commentators said this points to Judas, that David was prophesying of Judas. That was not. David was having a conversation about his struggles in life, and he said, even one of my friends who I ate bread with betrayed me. Jesus is quoting David. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was not prophesied that Judas would do this. Jesus is quoting David, and he's saying, like David, one of my friends is doing the same thing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in verse 18, we discover that, and the Bible, when it was translated from German to English, using the writings of David, Psalm 41, they made it look that way to reinforce the penal substitutionary doctrine. They did that all over the place. So often when you're studying the Bible, if you see Jesus quote the Old Testament, and then you go there, it makes it look like they were prophesying of Jesus. They were not. But they were talking about many more comforter messengers coming, and all of their prophets were consecrated messengers, all of them. But I'm not saying all of them fully were aware, but they were sent just like Jesus was sent. But again, Jesus functioned greater than any of them. So how I say that is, truly I declare to you, a servant is not above the one he serves, nor is he the one sent greater than the sender. If you perceive these truths, joy comes not by knowing, but by living them. I'm not speaking of every faculty within you, for I know which I have awakened. One of you who shares bread with me will rise up against him, as one of King David's friends did. That's how he was saying that. I tell you this beforehand, so when it unfolds, you will recognize that I exist in union. Truly, whoever receives the one I send receives me, and whoever receives me receives the source who sent me. So he was telling these people that he had great understanding, because he spent 3.5 years with them, and he knew what Judas would do. He understood that. I can hang around with people for 3.5 years, and I can tell you who they are. I can tell you what they will do in certain instances. And I can, if I wanted to, I can get up and say, thus saith the Lord, because I know something about their life. Okay? So key phrases here is lifted up the hill. It means to oppose or to rise up in the resistance of awareness. This is Jesus' lesson of washing the feet. He's helping people with that. So, allegorically, the betrayal, which is rise up against, represents resistance again to awareness, even while sharing the same bread. In other words, even while feeding on the Logos, there can be something within inside of you that still resists that. That's why we need a continual cleansing. You know, I always say it's not enough for you just to listen to one sermon a week. It's important for you to have your own personal cleansing, your personal time of sitting in your office or on your back porch or whatever and talking with Father and let Spirit speak to you, because there's no lesser or greater. You're not any lesser than I am. You're not any lesser than Kay Fairchild. You're not any lesser than Jesus was. Anybody can hear if they're willing. You just, like my friend wrote a song once, you got to have the want to. So in these verses, Jesus dismantles this false hierarchy of religion. Religion exalts rulers, do they not? They exalt masters, they exalt titles, positions. Even Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Rama, Muhammad, Confucius, and many other messengers, they always exalt a messenger. And they were never to do that. And I don't believe any of these messengers here taught them to exalt them. But man always has that desire to have a physical God, something they can see with their physical eyes. And they miss out so much. This focusing on Spirit. Logos reveals the servant and the master, the sent and the sender, that we're all in union. We're all one. Whoever is teaching you, you're one with them. So the servant does not exist apart from the master. The master does not exist apart, whatever. We don't exist apart from Father. We see this that the illusion of superiority and inferiority, when you see this, it collapses. When you understand this, that you're totally one. So in closing here, verse 17 reminds us, knowledge alone does not bring joy. I can go to a school of whatever it is and just gain knowledge, it won't bring joy. It's revelation knowledge. It's Logos knowledge. Many know the verses. Many repeat the words of the Bible. Many study doctrines, but blessed, happy, and well off, they don't experience that. It's not just hearing, but it's embracing, and it's living out of service. It's living out of union that brings joy. Verse 18, Jesus acknowledges the presence of resistance. Judas, the picture of distorted praise, eats bread with him, but soon will resist him. So this shows that we can study and we can go to church all the time and take the lessons, but we still resist our oneness with Father. We still say, this can't be true of me. We still fight ourselves. So even faculties that sat at the banquet table cling to self-interest. So he was aware of it. He knew it would happen. And he knew, just like King David went through, he knew it was going to happen to him. Verse 19, he tells you before it comes. So when it happens, you will know and believe that he existed as a messenger. So this is not about predicting the future. It's about affirming union and always knowing that there will be resistance. No matter what generation, no matter what time, don't be shocked when people resist you. Don't get mad. Don't give up, because there will always be resistance. Jesus said there will always be the poor among you. He's not talking about people that lack anything. He's talking about people that lack spiritual understanding. There will always be. So don't get upset like I have at times in my life. One time I remember I went to San Francisco, and I saw all the people in the streets, and I said, God, how is this world going to change? Well, it's not about me changing the whole world. It's about me changing my world. One world at a time. You are my world. One person. Every person is my world when I'm with you. And it's about me doing that. So verse 20 closes with a beautiful chain of reception here. During their time, to receive the messenger was to receive Jesus. And to receive Jesus was to obtain understanding of the source. So this is Logos multiplication, if you would. Every consecrated messenger carries the same life. All consecrated messengers carry the same life. There's no break between sender, sent, and messenger. They're all one flow of spirit. So to receive a consecrated messenger today is to obtain the voice of spirit in them and the teaching of the Logos so you can become a consecrated messenger. That's what he was doing for his disciples. This means when you speak Logos, those who receive you receive divine mind awareness. And they receive divine mind awareness, they receive the divine revelation that makes them free to experience abundant life. That's why Jesus said the truth, which you look it up, it says the not concealed word. The not concealed word is the Logos. So the Logos will make you and enable you to enjoy and live out of your abundant life. It belongs to you right now. As the Father sent me, he said, so I send you. You're not lesser, you are of the same life. If they would have known that, and religiosity would understand that, we would not be worshiping Jesus. We would not be buying pictures of Jesus. We would not be buying crosses. We would not be buying saints. We would not be buying anything that I had to pray to or doing anything to try to become something I already am. All that stuff would have not even existed at all. So Father's life in you is both servant and master, sent and sender. So don't seek hierarchy, seek union. Joy will come when you live what you know. There's a verse, I think, that says joy comes in the morning. That morning is your awakening. That morning is your, in the mornings when you get up. So literally it means joy will come when your awareness lines up with my awareness. Not talk about me, but spiritual awareness. If you don't have joy, if you don't have peace, whatever it is you think you don't have, it'll come in your awakening, and you'll have that aha moment and say, I always had this. I could have lived out of this my entire life. The people around me could have been blessed more if I would have listened to Father and come up higher. So joy is awesome. Joy is when you live what you know. Joy is washing one another. Joy is giving to other people. It's been a blessing to other people. Resistance may rise around you, but you can resist that falsehood if you would. So don't fear. Believe that spirit exists in you and that you exist in as spirit. Whoever receives Father, Spirit, whoever receives you receives the source for your all one life. And I have cried over what happened to Charlie Kirk. I'm not taking one side or the other. I called my son and reminded him how much I loved him, because I said, I cannot imagine what it's like for a father to have to turn their son in for that. Literally, that young man killed two families. And I feel sorry for the young man because he fed on something that produced hate. And today, I'm seeing all these posts on Facebook condemning Charlie. And there's so much hate out there. And that's why we've got to get these things down. There are people that need our help, family. They need people to come with love, not just to correct them on their doctrine, but to correct them on who they are and teach them that they'll always be loved.
And that we're all one.
We are one.
Father.
So I say again, I'm Roy Richmond. Please love one another. God bless you, and we'll see you again next Sunday. Thank you.